Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode. That's 5 plus another 5. And that's 2 from you over there. 12. That's episode 12 of Know Your News version of whatever the hell Kate and I do, which is called Get the Flick Out of Here. I'm Alex Pawlowski, and this, of course, is Kate, and this is who we are. This is what we do. We talk about things ad nauseum for literally too long, and hopefully have a fun time doing it, and you like watching it. This is the show where we review weird, crazy, bad, off-kilter film and television, and sometimes we like to do a little holiday episode. A themed episode, if you will, to go along with things going on in the world.
Gonna go ahead and stop you right there. If it continues in this direction, never again. I felt like going into episode 11, we were on a heater of flicks that I would like to stay in. I do not want to get the flick out of here.
Right.
Last week was like somewhere in between. This week, without hesitation, having watched only one of the 6 that you did. God bless you.
5.5. I wasn't able to get through
5 3/4 though. Like I would get so far out of here. Part of it is because my inability to handle anything even remotely slightly graphic, even fake as it may be. Fake shark infested waters being one of them. And the other part of it was it was a terrible movie.
This week, of course, is Shark Week. And as such, we are reviewing Sharknado.
The Dynasty.
And its sequels.
Which is not, by the way, what I signed up for initially at all. You said, let's watch Sharknado. And I said, okay, I've never seen Sharknado.
I would like to remind you who suggested this in the first place, because it was not this guy.
Yes, it was.
No. You said, hey, I've never seen Sharknado, in case you wanted to do that. And I was like, okay,
no.
Cool.
I wouldn't have even thought of Sharknado. You threw out Sharknado as a possibility, and I said, I've never seen it. Revisionist history, Alex.
Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it because I have to be right. Yeah, I don't know.
I think sincerely what happened was you had mentioned Sharknado a few weeks ago, like as a joke. And I had said, I'd never seen that. We could do that for the show.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I think you were the idiot who put it on our radar. And I was the idiot who suggested it.
Because of all, I'm thinking of genuinely bad movies.
That was this.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then you were, and I was like, it's like Sharknado. I was like, I've never seen that. I was like, oh, okay, we'll watch it. I think that might have been it. But wow, for those of you who don't know, Sharknado is a movie by The Asylum, which just makes really bad it's mostly straight to TV science fiction movies.
In partnership with the Sci-Fi Channel, right?
Right. Almost all of them, yes. Yeah.
What struck me was I went to Google it, and there was one review site that had it at under 1 star, and then there was one review site that had it at 3.75 stars.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, this is going to either be my favorite movie or my least favorite movie. Because some of those go just like one way or the other, and it just depends on your sense of humor and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alex.
The thing, I think that the thing of it is that it was an absolute phenomenon when it first came out in 2013. It is as crazy as possible. The idea of, because the Asylum also does things like, by the way, they did a movie called Two-Headed Shark Attack, in which a shark was mutated and had two heads and then attacked. Right? Yes.
Question.
Okay. Yes.
Do they do anything that isn't sharks?
Oh, plenty.
Okay.
But sharks are really apparently easy to animate, I guess, and also like, you know, everybody wants to vacation near the beach, so you can get people to do your movie. So sorry, I'm watching the end of Sharknado 6 on my other monitor, and it's very funny because I got no context. I'm just watching it without sound, and just really stupid stuff is happening.
It's probably better that way.
It is. They did anyway. They did a movie called Two-Headed Shark Attack.
Of course.
And I have seen Two-Headed Shark Attack. It is legitimately awful. Apparently, in the intervening years, they made Three-Headed Shark Attack, Four-Headed Shark Attack, Five-Headed Shark Attack, and Six-Headed Shark Attack.
Who is funding these movies?
I don't know, Kate. I don't know how they could make any money at all from ad. You think advertisers would pull their ads from the network choosing to broadcast these movies? Sharknado 1 is the least, I can say the least about it, because it is absolutely trying to be an actual movie.
Yes. So before we went on air, I compared this to Fast and Furious, where I was like, driving fast cars is to Fast and Furious, as shark-infested waters taking over the town is to Sharknado. Right. But Fast and Furious, one thing I appreciated was they became extremely self-aware from my understanding. I only saw it like 2 and 6, I think.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because of an ex-boyfriend. So, like, I guess they completely bought into the fact that, like, we are a parody of ourselves.
Right.
And I have all the respect for the world for that. I could not hang in there long enough with Sharknado to see if it evolved into such a thing. But as you mentioned, in the first Fast and Furious, they were stealing built-in DVD player televisions.
Yes. And then they, by the 8th one, they were like racing a nuclear sub across an ice sheet to save the world. I don't think it makes, I don't think enough people recognize that that is all about family. Started out with them trying to steal DVD players. And by literally 7 films later, we need to save the world. Who do we turn to? Well, the only people we can. These people who's 8 years ago were stealing DVD players.
Of course.
It's pretty funny. Sharknado, it was an idea of these very. They made a lot of these. I think actually Sharknado was the first one, and then everything was a spin-off of it. But some weird weather formation plus an animal, and somehow they work together. There was a literal spin-off of this called Lavalantula. There was a big tarantula made out of lava. That's a thing that actually they did.
This preceded Sharknado?
This was a spin-off of Sharknado.
A spin-off. Okay.
Yeah, there were a lot of other ones too.
So Sharknado walked so that Lavalantula could run.
There's a weird movie about blizzard sharks where like there's sharks made out of snow.
Why is there with sharks?
I don't listen. It's a thing, man. Like Jaws became a phenomenon because people have this fascination with like swimming eating machines that want to kill human beings. I don't know why it is.
Okay, but we have seen simulated matchups between animals that can kill each other, and we know there are plenty of other vicious creatures out there. I would like to challenge weather disaster, animal, sci-fi, low-budget movie producers to expand creatively into animals that are more threatening than perhaps, say, a tarantula.
Right.
And not a shark.
Right.
Like, I don't know, earthquake tiger, where the earth splits open and tigers just shoot up from the under earth.
I mean,
I agree with this. Should we be making a movie?
We should be making movies, you and I together.
Yeah,
Let's pitch that to Warner Brothers in the morning. Sharknado, like at its core, the premise is solid. Water spouts, which are basically tornadoes over the water, pick up fish and drop them inland. Like, it's a thing. It's a phenomenon. It's happened many times in recorded history. So there's nothing that says a powerful enough water spout couldn't pick up sharks if there were enough sharks and drop them inland. Like
I'm immediately frustrated by the fact that we got a molten tarantula situation when this water spout thing could have, the trailer for it could have just been like, this water spout isn't itsy bitsy after all. We could have been doing water spiders, but continue.
Very good.
Thank you. I'm great at this.
Yeah. So the idea of like, hey, there's a lot of sharks in the water, like they're swimming here, but like they shouldn't be, but they are, and also there's a hurricane coming out of Mexico, and like that all like is theoretically possible, and then of course it gets more and more impossible afterwards, But
the opening scene of this is like a business deal gone wrong.
It does. Like the screenwriter had a scene that they wrote for a screenwriting class and decided I have to include it in this feature film. Mr. Captain Santiago, who runs.
Did you order the code red? That's all I could think about with Santiago, by the way.
Captain Santiago runs a shark fishing expedition off the coast of Mexico, where he basically harvests shark fins for shark fin soup. And an Asian man is going to buy all the shark fins for $1 million, which seems like a lot of shark fins for shark fin soup.
I'm going to say an overabundance on a food that I have never heard is like a delicatessen of some sort. Like, the markup on shark fin soup cannot be that good.
Or a delicacy, because a delicatessen would have been to some place where you get a sandwich.
Both are true.
Yes. Also,
I've never heard of a
I've
deli
never heard of
inside.
a shark fin being a delicatessen either.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a deal gone wrong, because it's like my employers are prepared to offer you $200,000 for all the shark fins, and it's like $1 million or you don't get to leave the boat. Like, and he pulls out a gun. It's like, well, I think we have a deal. He's such a little accountant guy, and then he this is great. As we're talking about this, the end of season of Sharknado 6 like loops back through time. By the way, yeah, there's a time travel episode. The Sharknado 6 is all about time travel and the multiverse. And I'm watching now the end of Sharknado 6 going back to the beginning of Sharknado 1, where it's the dude and the other dude on the boat. And they're trying to stop the phenomenon of Sharknadoes. So they have to go back and stop all the Sharknadoes as they're happening. It's like
How
it's like
did
a back
two
to
of those guys do it?
Oh, they don't. They're just there, and everybody else is like trying to travel through time to stop all of them.
I understand.
This is ridiculous. So the hero of this thing is a surfer. His name is Finn. Get it? like Shark Fin. He's short for Finley, and he's got a friend who's Australian whose name is Baz, and they're surfers. That's literally what they do. They surf, and our hero Finn, played by Ian Ziering of 90210 pseudo fame.
I will say, not the worst actor in the world.
No, not terrible. He owns this bar on the Santa Monica Pier. So that's his whole deal. And the Sharknado approaches, like they start the whole thing with like sharks in the actual water. Like Baz gets his bitten on the leg on his jet ski, and Finn's got to go save him. And this hot surfer girl that he was flirting with gets eaten by a shark. But it's all in the water to start with, and then the hurricane keeps coming.
That's the thing. They're very aware that a hurricane is coming, but a lot of people are in this town absolute morons who just hang out on the beach when a hurricane is coming, and then also sharks is what makes them move.
Yeah, the sharks eventually make them move. It's not great.
However,
but
they move into the bar, which is also beachside.
Yeah,
which is still incredibly stupid.
Yeah, and a shark flies through the window and eats somebody, and then the barmaid Nova stabs it in the brain with a pool cue. I should note the dad from Home Alone has an extended cameo as the barfly. He's the Norm of this bar. He has a seat that he sits in all the time. He's constantly drunk, and he's always hitting on Nova, the barmaid.
And, like inappropriately touching her.
Inappropriately so. This was the first one came out in 2013. It was the first existence that I remember of literally everybody on Twitter live tweeting something. Like everyone was watching this thing as it was airing, going, "This is crazy! Can you believe this shit?" kind of thing, and everyone was doing it. You had to get in on it.
The first non-sporting thing that I can remember.
Yeah.
I also want to point out that hot barmaid has a shark bite looking thing on her thigh. And also seemingly PTSD related to a shark attack, which maybe living at the beach is not like the healthiest choice for you.
The best place for you to be.
Not great. Not great.
Not a great thing. So the Sharknado comes ashore, kills a bunch of people, and floods Los Angeles. And so for a while we get Ian Ziering and Baz and Nova, the barmaid, and the dad from Home Alone, traveling the freeways of Los Angeles, trying to get up to Beverly Hills, which is where Ian Ziering's ex-wife lives, played by Tara Reid, who is the worst actor, I think, on the planet. After watching all of these movies, I don't know if she was always this bad, but she is now the worst actor on the planet.
Like, not the best material to work with. I will give her that.
Still.
But this was like, fun facts about me. I'm obsessed with Christmas. And this was like all of the dumb Hallmark movies that I love to watch around Christmas. This was on par with one of those. Like very, very, very bad.
It's pretty terrible. They get to her house and she's like, "What are you doing here? You're not allowed to come here. I live here now. I am here with my boyfriend, who is obviously a businessman, and also our daughter lives here, and she does not want to see you. and your visitation rights start on the 20th, and it is not the 20th, and you have to leave here. And she appears to be unaware that there is A, a hurricane, and B, the hurricane is filled with sharks.
Well, but he called her from the bar to be like, hey, I'm just checking in because a hurricane is coming your way. And she was like, we are 6 miles inland. It's fine.
Yeah.
Also, like, I don't know. It's your kid's dad and your lover at some point. Maybe let him in the house during a hurricane.
Right. No, he's not allowed. But anyway, he forces his way in, and asshole boyfriend's like, April is mine now. So just so you know, like, he's not the good guy. They should have put that little line in there. 30 seconds ago, she was like, you are not allowed in my house. And then later she was like, hey, leave him alone. Be nice to my ex-husband. And I'm like, there is definitely a scene missing. But then the house fills with water and sharks. And one of the sharks eats the boyfriend. And the teenage daughter, who hates her father for some reason we're never actually told. Just I guess for not being there for her because he's a surfer.
Kind of. And then there's like, we find out later there's a boy in the picture too, and she's like, you were always there for him and not for me, blah blah blah.
Right. Yeah, that was weird. So there's also a son, an older son, who is in flight school or something, training to be like an Air Force pilot or something. And he's up in Van Nuys. Now, Van Nuys, I lived in the valley for 8 months. Felt like 8 years because the valley's a terrible place to live. Van Nuys is only 15 miles from the beach, but it might as well be Wyoming. Like, it feels so far from like where, like, it's literally just straight down the canyon to Malibu. Beautiful beaches, but like if you live in Van Nuys, you would never see the ocean ever because your life is a horrible, miserable existence. So they have to get to Van Nuys, to where he is, where this guy, the son, is in flight school. So, oh, by the way, at this point, the dad from Home Alone is dead. He was eaten.
He was eaten. I also skipped over. I was just looking at my notes. Sorry. A couple of things. One, there's a really dramatic scene where they realize like that they have to batten up the hatches at the bar that they own. And then there's like an incredible amount of destruction that miraculously does not collapse the building at that point. Like, we see an entire house's worth on top of the bar, but the bar does not collapse. And the other thing was when they were entering the house of the ex-wife, nobody went to the attic. Like, nobody was like, hey, waters and sharks are coming in. Like, we know shark-infested waters are taking over the streets. Maybe go upstairs.
Right.
That was not like a consideration by anybody there. So my conclusion at this point in the movie was that Sharknado was biblically what Noah's Ark was supposed to do, and that all of these people are idiots, and that maybe God was like, I'm sending a Sharknado to start over because they won't get off the street for a hurricane until they're sharks, and then they go into a bar that is next to the beach. Mm-hmm. And then they go find shelter, but they don't go upstairs in that shelter. So I'm thinking you kind of, not that you deserve it, but you've kind of brought it on yourself at this point.
Yeah, no. Yeah, this is the Noah flood. Yeah, but like times a million. Yeah, and it also involves sharks.
Right.
And also they're throwing sharks out of the sky. Like the sharks don't fly.
No, but they're hurled.
They're flying out of they're being hurled out of the sky, but they don't control their flight path.
Nope.
So there's a lot in these movies of people shooting at falling sharks.
Yes. It's kind of like when you go to like fire a paper airplane and you're like, I don't know the way that's going to go. That's kind of how the sharks are hurling through the air. Just directionless, but they are like skeet shooting sharks out of the air.
Yeah. That's a lot of that. There's a lot of they run aground somewhere on their way to Van Nuys, and wind up in a army surplus store where they get a chainsaw, and then they get they rent like a Hummer from some like rent a Hummer place and drive through the valley. And they finally get to.
Love that the hero of our movie, Finn, knows how to drive through a Sharknado as if it's the same as swimming through a riptide.
Right.
He like knows how to time the drive. It's
Yes.
amazing.
That is good.
Amazing.
So anyway, they get to the flight school and everyone's hiding behind some like aluminum siding inside the hangar, but there's no rain there anymore. Like they at some point they think they ran out of the budget for the rain machine because they just stopped using it.
Blind Melon came. They played.
Right. So they rescue the son and a few of the son's friends from flight school, and the son, whose name is Matt, has scenes where you can tell that Matt is kind of sweet on Nova.
Yes,
and she's kind of sweet on him. By the way, it is
like
heavily implied through the entire movie that Finn and Nova are sleeping together, but he has told her absolutely nothing about himself.
Correct. To the point where she didn't know he had an ex-wife and a kid.
Yeah.
And also, I just want to say that Matt was like the mattiest Matt in the world. Like that guy was named Matt.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Did we get to the school bus of kids yet?
No, I skipped the school bus of kids. I mean, it was...
What?
Yeah, I skipped the school bus of kids.
Okay, but we get important character development on this because there's a school bus of kids as they're driving, which there's kids inside of the school bus, despite there being a debate. But the ex-wife, Tara Reid, is like, it's so typical of you to want to save children. Like, in like this very like... I can't believe you want to save a school bus of children.
Movie. She's really not a nice person.
Yeah, what a gem. Can't believe that didn't work out. You always want to save a school bus of children instead of worrying about the people you're with all the time. Like, what a dick.
There's obviously nobody in there. Cut to inside the school bus, full of kids and the bus driver trying to calm them down. They save the kids. Nobody dies except for the bus driver who gets hit by the flying Hollywood sign.
And why wasn't there a part here where he was propelling down the side of a bridge too?
Yeah, he rappelled off the bridge to get to the kids.
That's what it
was. It was too much water down there. They can't drive down there. So
that's what it was.
Right.
He knows how to do a lot of things instinctively.
No. Not only is he a surfer, but he's like everything else too. By the time you get to like Sharknado 4, you realize he must have been in special forces at some point.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean?
Because at this point, it feels like how Zach Morris was like the captain of every sports team on Saved by the Bell. Like he just knows how to do all of these things suspiciously at this point.
It's funny.
Please don't skip the school bus of children. I think it's amazing that Tara Reid is pissed.
Yes.
That this guy wants to save the school bus full of children.
Right. So Nova is playfully flirting with Matt, and he's like, "This is a nice scar," and she's like, "Yeah, I don't like to talk about it." Why not? He lifts up his shirt, and there's this gnarly scar on his chest under his rib cage. He says, "I got it falling off a slide when I was 2. Hurt like hell." But everything thinks he's really cool now. It's like, hurt like hell? You were 2. Do you remember that your earliest memories of you falling off a slide and obviously being impaled on something jagged? Like, it's a really crazy scar. I want to hear more about that story as opposed to her was like, I went out on a boat with my grandfather. I was raised by my grandparents. My grandfather took me and his friends on his charter boat, and then we ran into a reef, and the boat capsized. And we all went inside, and they tried to protect me from all the sharks, but eventually the sharks all ate them, and I was the only one alive. And so she like literally does the Quint from Jaws speech about the SS, whatever it was, that that sank during World War II. It's like, and except for she says 6 people went into the water, 1 little girl came out, the sharks took the rest. Like they just straight up stole it. And this, I will say, that speech would fit perfectly in Sharknado 3, 4, or 5 because they were absolutely stealing everything, obviously, and like playing off all of the tropes of the things they were stealing. But in this movie, again, they're trying to make an actual movie, and that's why it didn't work.
And just like the turn from I can't even talk about it to the openness of my entire family that I was with got eaten is like a very big jump.
Yeah.
And as far as the scar on the fella Matt, I was like, that happened when you were 2 and it looks like that now?
Yeah.
I think you got some shitty treatment when you got stitched back up, brother.
Do scars generally grow like that?
Stretch like that?
Really across your entire...
I don't think so.
Anyway, so the whole thing that they're doing while they have this conversation is they are building bombs to throw into the tornado because it's high pressure, hot air, low pressure, cool air, and they meet. Maybe we can equalize the temperature by throwing bombs at the tornado.
As one does.
As one would do. And this is apparently works because they go up and he takes her up in a helicopter and they throw bombs in the tornado. And the first couple of Sharknadoes stop. They dissipate and all the sharks fall out of the sky, and people are shooting at the sharks as they fall out of the sky. And a few people are crushed to death by sharks.
That fall from the sky.
They don't actually some of them they're eaten by sharks, but a few of them get crushed to death. But they never show the sharks themselves getting pulverized by hitting the ground at 100 miles an hour.
No,
they're fine because they always land and they go, "Arr, arr, 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 arr," and it's just whatever.
Very resilient sharks,
right?
And also, before they fly to do this, we get this really horrific scene where Tara Reid again. Like Matt is like, we could go save thousands of people if we do this instead of just like a bat out of hell. And she's like, oh, you're just like your father.
Yeah.
I'm like, what values are you instilling in your little bitch kid?
The thing that they do is they say semper paratus, always be prepared. That's the thing that he teaches his kids to say. And she doesn't like that he teaches them to say that. And spoiler alert, that's how they fucking communicate for the entire goddamn series. They say semper paratus to each other like 4 times a movie. It's a little crazy.
Oh my God.
So
you're just like your father wanting to save people's lives.
Just like your father. Oh, by the way,
next thing you know, you're going to be saving children in a school bus.
Baz gets eaten. The lovable, rakish Australian surfer dude.
After having been through so much.
He did. He got through so much, but he was eaten. All the people at the flight school, they all got eaten. And then Nova falls out of the helicopter and is swallowed whole by the biggest great white shark you've ever seen in your life. Then they put a bunch of bombs in the Hummer. This is what Baz was working on when he was eaten. And then Ian Ziering, Finn, gets in the Hummer and drives it, I don't know, 15 miles, the really long. He was going very fast for several minutes. And jumps it off the edge of a canyon into the tornado where it explodes. And then he runs back to the Van Nuys flight school. And he gets there very quickly, and it doesn't make a lot of sense that he does this. And there are now all of the Sharknadoes, the tornado part has stopped. But because of that, nothing is keeping the sharks aloft. So they're just falling everywhere. And one of them is falling at Zion Ziering. And I don't know why he doesn't just stop. Because it's falling at an angle toward the ground. And he's running along, making sure the thing is following him. Go this way and it won't hit you. Stop and it'll overshoot you. Do anything, but he's like, no, I got to run and make sure I pick up my giant chainsaw so that I can turn around and leap into the great white shark's mouth while brandishing a chainsaw.
So that was my other thing was like, unless it's clusters of sharks falling from the sky, like you can see them and get out of the way. They're not small little sharks. Right. Like just step to the left or the right, which you do see some of. Like you see people step to the side and then have to duel with the sharks on occasion. But I did just feel like, I don't know, if you just ran 5 feet to the right. Yeah, you'd be off the trajectory of the falling sky shark.
Anyway, Ian Ziering jumps into the mouth of the giant great white shark and cuts his way out of the belly with a chainsaw, and then goes back into the belly of the shark and pulls out Nova, still alive. Well, not really. She's dead, but they're able to revive her via CPR.
Very like Jonah in the whale situation going on.
Or Geppetto in the whale, just alive, sitting in the belly of the shark. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, I forgot. I've seen Sharknado 1 once at my bachelor party, because my best friend.
You deserve another bachelor party.
My best friend, who was my best man, he and I would always go to Blockbuster, because this is how old we were. We'd go to the horror or sci-fi wall, and we'd go around and start picking out, each of us pick 5 or 6 of these things, and we'd come back with these obviously terrible movies, and we'd each be able to veto, no, I don't want to do that one. No, I don't want to do that one. And we'd get down to one. We'd pick that one, and we'd get a pizza and a 6-pack of beer, and we'd sit and we'd watch that one movie and eat the pizza and eat the beer, and we just make fun of it and have a lot of fun. And occasionally it turned out to be a fun time, because the movie turned out to be, hey, fun. That was kind of decent. Or sometimes it'd be like, this is terrible and not even fun to watch. But most of the time it was just like, let's make fun of these things. So yeah, my wedding was in 2013, a few months after this came out, and neither of us had seen it yet. So he got it for me on DVD, and we watched it. It was like a thing. So me and all the other groomsmen were like, why are we watching this terrible movie? It's a thing. Me and this guy who's more important to me than the 3 of you. Oh, really? Because that's what groomsmen are. Yeah. They're your best man, but not really. And anyways, that's what we watched. But anyway, I had forgotten that Nova died, because I had also forgotten that they pulled her out of the shark.
Well, because she undies, so it's kind of a reversible death, you know.
But it was like, oh, hey, it was what a tragedy that she died at the hands of the very same thing that took the life of her grandfather. But she didn't actually. So that's the end of the Sharknado 1. Is that they were able to say that everybody, daughter, son, ex-wife, Ian Ziering, Nova, alive.
But also ex-wife and Finn, bitchy ass Tara Reid and Finn kiss while he's covered in blood, and she's basically immediately like, gross. And I'm like, have a moment, you superficial bitch. And then Matt and Nova are heavily implied to be together, and I was like, if Sharknado 2 doesn't start with, hey, I was sleeping with your dad, I wanted it to go less into Sharknado worlds and more into incestuous weirdness. Right. Spoiler alert, that is not what happened.
No, because in Sharknado 2, there is no Nova. Nova's not in Sharknado 2. She was very heavily involved in Sharknado.
She was the innocent girl that was sleeping with the guy that she knows nothing about, and then his son.
Right. Also, her boss.
Also, yes.
The guy who owns the bar that she works at. Kind of a bad start to begin with, but
living by the beach with her shark ate my family
and
PTSD. Yeah.
And there also is no Matt.
Right.
There's no Matt. There's no son in the second one either.
Yeah.
But this is the one where they're like, okay, the first one was a crazy success we didn't know it was going to be. A lot of people watched this and talked about it on social media. So every small time actor who might be wanting to get a comeback has their agent on the phone trying to get them a part in Sharknado 2. So it's full of cameos. Like full of
Heads up,
cameos.
wrestling fans. Hold on to your seats.
It begins with they're flying into New York because apparently Finn is originally from New York City. They're flying into New York to see Finn's sister and her husband, who is Mark McGrath from Sugar Ray. Every morning there's a halo hanging from the corner.
Every morning there's a
of my
shark that's
girlfriend's
flying through the
foreface.
water and the sky at the same time. Nailed it.
I just want to fly into a Sharknado. But he's in it. But anyway, they're flying in there, and they do a really clever. This is why 2 is so much better than 1. Like you can even bypass 1 and watch 2, because it's starting to become aware of what it is. Like they do the whole thing of like, there's something on the wing of the plane from the Twilight Zone episode, and what it is that he sees the plane is a shark, because they're flying into a Sharknado. They don't know this, but they are. Also, the guy who plays the pilot of this ill-fated plane is Robert Hayes, who plays Ted Stryker from Airplane, which I know is one of your favorite movies.
I love Airplane so much.
And I love how many references he makes to actually being the same character from Airplane. Like
Macho Grande.
Oh yeah, where he says Macho Grande. He says, like, I've flown in a lot worse than this. You know? And then he's like, he says, she says, so what'd you have? Yeah, like, I thought about having the fish, but I took the chicken. He says, you never take the fish on an airplane. And it's like it's all great stuff. But then they fly into a Sharknado, and he gets eaten, and the co-pilot gets eaten, and Finn has to land the plane. As, by the way, Kelly Osbourne, head flight attendant, gets her head like ripped off because a hole opens in the side of the plane, and sharks are flying into the plane. Also, the air marshal is trying to rescue Tara Reid, who will not take no for an answer and just sit her ass down in the friggin' seat because Ian Zierin's like, I'm going to go land the plane because apparently surfers know how to land 747 jets.
Yes.
But I'm going to go land the plane. You stay here, and says, Finn, come back. And then the plane opens up, and she's about to be sucked out. And the air marshal passes her his gun so she can take his Glock and start shooting it at the sharks.
No, it is helpful that both Finn and Tara Reid have Sharknado experience, which is very important.
Because she wrote a book about it, How to Survive a Sharknado. That's actually why they're going to New York as well, because she's going to be on the Today Show.
They should have actually published that
be
book.
On live with Kelly and Michael Strahan. Kelly Ripa and Michael
my
Strahan.
God.
She was going to be on
idiots if they didn't actually publish that book. They could have made so much money.
But only if it was actually written by Tara Reid.
Yeah, or she at least has to promote it, yeah.
But just do the audiobook. In order to survive a Sharknado, first you must do these 3 things.
Chapter 1. Choose your weapon.
Chapter 1. Do not attempt to get to higher ground. Like that's
Stay near the beach.
Stay near the beach. If you are within 6 miles of the beach, you are safe.
Stick around.
Anyway, she is shooting a Glock out the window of an open aircraft, and one shark bites her hand clean off. And she just holds it out in front of her, the stump, and goes, ah, into the camera. So he's able to land the plane, but she has to go to the hospital because she lost a lot of blood. Dr. Billy Ray Cyrus tells Ian Ziering, because that's who plays the doctor, Dr. Billy Ray Cyrus, she'll be fine. She's a fighter. But she's lost a lot of blood. She needs to stay in the hospital.
Every hand's been bit off.
And so we get don't you tell my hand, my achy breaky hand.
Oh, that's right, my bad.
Anyway, they're supposed to go meet all of his old high school buddies, including Mark McGrath, at a Mets game. But there's also Al Roker, who, like, there's a lot of very heavy on the Today Show, a lot of NBC properties, because also own Sci-Fi, getting some cameo work. Al Roker's very heavily involved in most of these movies. Matt Lauer, now in hindsight, probably not the best choice to be really heavily involved in a lot of these.
We didn't know at the time.
But anyway, there's a huge snowstorm coming down. It's July. We've been so hot this past few months, but now we're gonna get snow, Al. Yes, that's right. Snow in July. You're right to be skeptical, but there's a low pressure front coming down from Canada. Also, there's a hurricane coming up from the south. What's gonna happen? I don't know. I'm Al Roker. And so the snow, they can't do the Mets game because of the snow. Vivica A. Fox is there, and also Judah Friedlander from 30 Rock, and they're Ian Ziering's best friends. And so he's able to get there, and then Mark McGrath and he don't like each other anymore because, I don't know. And Ian Ziering's sister, who is heavily featured in this movie and never is even mentioned in any of the other movies, which is odd because a lot of it is like Ian Ziering trying to save his entire extended family and traveling through time to do so. They never even mentioned her again. But one of her friends from college, I guess, is Peppa of Salt and Peppa. And she is riding a bike at one point and gets eaten by a shark, or squashed by a hammerhead shark, I think. They're going to Statue of Liberty. The head of the Statue of Liberty blows off the Statue of Liberty and literally chases Ian Ziering's sister through all of the boroughs of Manhattan.
I want to pause and reflect on the fact that, like, people have agents to get roles. Mm-hmm. Like, could you imagine being an agent and being like, Pepper, guess what I have for you? Got you a part Sharknado. You're riding your bike and you get eaten by a shark.
Yep.
Give me 20%.
Yeah. It's so eventually Judah Friedlander gets eaten by the butt out the back of out of the 7 train in the subway, and he says, Mayhem. Don't ever mess with a Mets fan on the 7 train, then gets eaten immediately.
Perfect for the Mets. Very on brand.
Yeah, very on brand.
Derek Jeter would have survived.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have. And so there's also there's a weird scene where Judah Friedlander meets Richard Kind, who's playing an old ball player and wistfully talks about the good old days, and then later hits a falling shark with a baseball bat. It's a very odd movie. But eventually it comes down to there's the tallest hotel in America, and they have to go there to blow up the sharks. So Vivica A. Fox, who is Ian Ziering's high school girlfriend, and there's a scene where he says, your dad didn't want us dating because I was a white guy. And he's like, but he didn't love you. I did. And that should have been enough for you. And so she still harbors feelings for him 25 years later, and he's like moved on, and like he's now with his ex-wife again.
But to bitchy Tara Reid.
Apparently, she's nice to him now, I guess.
I'm just saying, if I have a choice between Vivica A. Fox and bitchy Tara Reid, who's nice all of a sudden, but has one hand,
I'd always take Vivica. So Tara Reid breaks out of the hospital to go and try and save her husband, and affixes like a prosthetic something to her hand, to her stump. Yeah.
I don't think I remember that.
Yeah, it's not great. So they try and they take propane tanks and start shooting them into the storm, because that worked the last time, but it doesn't work this time because of the cold front coming down from Canada. It's making the tornadoes too cold. So instead of trying to fire out everything, make it too hot, let's make it too cold. So they go to a place where they can use Freon tanks to freeze out all the sharks.
I can't wait to listen back to this episode just hearing you summarize.
Yeah, it's really bad. But the main thing you have to know about this is that eventually Finn goes to this place where there's Freon tanks in the roof, and he has to talk to the fire chief of all of FDNY, and it's Kurt Angle. It's the wrestler Kurt Angle, and it's like, "Hello, Mr. Shepard. I'm the fire chief. You want to go and do what? Where? The Freon tanks? What? Run this through me." It's just, oh my god. He's got this gigantic friggin' neck in his little FDNY jacket. But so here's the deal. Tara Reid is able to find, so Ian Ziering and Vivica Fox go to the roof, and they have to like hook up a cable to the Freon tanks and like take the cable all the way out, and like to take the live electrical cable for some reason and touch it to the fence, which then will electrify the entire skyscraper and blow up the Freon tanks and shoot it all into this tornado. Right, Ever? What? Right.
Of course.
So they're able to do that, but in order to do that, Vivica Fox has to sacrifice herself to save her city. And the Freon tanks blow, and she might be okay because she gets blown clear of everything, but she's falling through the Sharknado and gets bitten in half by two sharks. So Vivica A. Fox is bitten in half by two sharks. That's
double shark death.
Double shark death. It's tough. But then Tara Reid shows up. And there's a chainsaw, there's a sword or something. They cut into a shark, and it turns out the shark that they cut into is the same shark that ate her hand. What are the odds? But they don't keep the hand they pull out of the shark. However, they do keep her wedding ring. And they take it off of her severed hand, and then he proposes to her on the top of the Empire State Building or something. And she says yes. The sharks caught on fire, and one of them landed on a fireworks truck. And then the fireworks truck exploded, and the set fireworks off into the sky of New York as she said yes, and they kiss.
I also want to point out that she was already wearing a wedding ring.
Mm-hmm.
So they had kind of already acknowledged that they were back together.
I think it was like the old wedding ring, but he hadn't proposed to her yet. They were still not married. Whatever. Sharknado 3, Kate, is one you have not seen yet, and it is where the series fully hit its stride. It fully accepts that it is gonzo crazy ass shit, and it says we're gonna do this from now on. At the beginning, they're honoring Finn as like the civilian of the year kind of thing. And he's been presented an award by the President of the United States, played by Mark Cuban of Shark Tank and also the owner of the Dallas Mavericks.
And trying to save the country from health insurance gaps in pay. Yeah.
And Mark Cuban obviously always wanted to be an action star. And this is where he gets to.
Is he good in this?
I mean, no. But he's having a blast. Everyone tries to usher him away from. There's the Sharknado that hits Washington D.C.
Of course,
and because of course, it hits the entire Eastern Seaboard actually, but it hits Washington D.C. first, and so the Secret Service is ushering him out of the ballroom where they were doing the big awards presentation, and down into the basement, into the bunker, so no sharks can get him. And Ian Ziering keeps telling the Secret Service, "Give me a gun, I can help. Why won't anybody give me a gun?"
Look what I was honored for.
Yeah, and he says, and the head of the Secret Service says, "Mr. Shepard, we are about to enter the presidential bunker. This is the safest room in America. You will not need a gun in here." And they open it up, and there are sharks the sharks are just all over the bunker. And one of them leaps out and eats the Secret Service. And so Finn Shepard and the President Mark Cuban, have to run away up the stairs. Like, we need weapons. We need something really good. It's like, the armory. Come on, says the President. So they go to the armory and they outfit themselves.
Has this ever happened to you? You're locked out of a presidential bunker and the Secret Service doesn't believe you're a threat.
And so they each get like 4 machine guns and a bunch of shotguns and some body armor. And they're in like some presidential hallway where there are floor to ceiling windows and skylights that have all been broken out by the storm. And there are sharks raining in on them. And it's just Mark Cuban going, boom, boom. Come on, you sons of bitches. Boom, boom. It's Mark Cuban. Like, he's just ridiculous. And there's like breaking out like 2 Uzis and like, it's just insane.
He's like President Rambo, Mark Cuban, shark attacker.
And so then they're able to, like, it's like, screw I'm out of bullets. Me too. Screw this. Let's get out of here. And so they run and they jump through the one window that hasn't yet been broken out of this hallway and jump out a 2nd-story window to the outside where there are lots of sharks falling from the sky. I don't know I forget what happens to like stop that Sharknado, but like at the end of like, it's like a full-on 15-minute sequence, and they go, Sharknado 3, and they did the full sequence of everything. It's great. And the whole thing is that Finn has to get to Orlando, which is where his wife is, Tara Reid, who is now pregnant. And and she's there with her mother, played by Bo Derek, and her mother hates Finn, has always hated Finn, always thought Finn wasn't good enough for her daughter, all that kind of crap. So
2 questions.
Yes.
1, how has nobody developed or is working on some sort of device that can measure when a Sharknado would be coming?
Sharknado 4. Wait for it.
Okay,
so
good. My other question was, it was an important one.
Was it about Tara Reid and her pregnancy?
It was not. It might have been about Bo Derek. Continue.
Okay. So Claudia, the daughter from the first movie,
yes,
who did not appear in the second movie, is a different actress entirely.
Because she like grew up, or
no? She's
just a different human.
Like 2 years later, after the first one. But they keep saying, "Oh my God, you changed your hair! It looks great." So like they know that we're all gonna know it's a different actress.
Okay,
so they
that's
keep
fun.
talking about how she changed her hair. It doesn't even look like you anymore. I know, right? So that's the whole thing. So anyway, she's walking around Universal Studios, again, owned by NBC, which owns Sci-Fi, so they could do all the things they want there. She's walking around Universal Studios with her best friend, who's a flirt, who's just trying to pick up boys at the thing. And they go on a roller coaster, and the guy who's running the roller coaster is Chris Jericho. The girls ride the roller coaster, leave all their shit in a locker there, and then leave while leaving Claudia's phone behind in the locker. And he sees like, hey, you forgot your phone. Hey, you know what? They always come back for it. Puts it in his back pocket. But the tracking app on the phone is still activated. So everyone thinks that Chris Jericho is Claudia. You know, that's the thing. So there you go.
Boy, are they mistaken.
Yeah, very mistaken. He's not terrible in this. He's fine. He's the guy who runs the ride. He's fine. So anyway, Ian Ziering is trying like hell to get to Orlando to meet up with his wife, his pregnant wife, and his daughter. But he can't because all of the flights are grounded on the eastern seaboard because of the Sharknado, the giant Sharknado wall that is heading for Orlando. So he's trying to get there, and so Bo Derek could not give less of a shit about the Sharknado. Also, not giving much of a shit, Tara Reid, who's been through 2 of these things, and is like, Mom, yes, of course, we'll just sit here in this cafe and we'll talk about baby names. Like, it's the weirdest thing that they've written nothing for her to do.
It's also just kind of like, I don't know. Wouldn't you think before bringing a child into a Sharknado world?
You would think you would. Maybe it was an oops baby. I don't know. They're both in there. Like, Tara Reid's got to be in her mid to late 40s at this point. Like it was not. She does not look like the type who can bring a new life into this world correctly. Finn is trying to drive from Washington, D.C. to Orlando. And he's like, I'll be there soon. Like, when? Like, that's like a 12, 13-hour drive at least.
You just stay where you are, bro. Wait till the Sharknado passes.
Yeah, but anyway, there's a Sharknado that is passing through West Virginia. And everybody has to stop because this thing's happening. And who saves him from the Sharknado? Nova, who's gone full Mad Max. Like, she's got like a gas mask and full on body armor and everything. She's gone crazy. She's been studying these things worldwide. Also, she has with her little sidekick, played by Frankie Muniz of Malcolm in the Middle, who's obviously head over heels, super gaga, geek fest in love with Nova and can't bring himself to tell her. But also he idolizes Finn Shepard because like he wants to be able to be him. But he's crunched all the numbers, you see, and he understands he can predict where the Sharknadoes are going to come. Also, he knows how to deal with them all through science, you understand. So they decide they're like, we're going to give you a lift in our giant RV that's been kitted out with like shark shooting stuff and also armor and spikes everywhere, so in case sharks land on us.
Yeah, it will impale them.
So they drive to an Air Force base. And Finn knows the general there, so it's totally cool. He can come on in. And while they're there, the Sharknado hits this Air Force base in West Virginia. And Frankie Muniz says, it's okay. This is what we decided. This is what the beast is built for, which is what they named the RV. He's gonna blow it up, and because of the stuff inside it, it's gonna kill the Sharknado. That's what he thinks. So Frankie Muniz says, "I'll go do it." Also, Nova is now an expert pilot, and she's gonna fly this supersonic jet into the Sharknado and drop bombs in it. While you're doing that, also Finn is your passenger. He's going to be in the gunner seat. While you're doing that, I'm going to go over here, literally hundreds, if not thousands of yards away to where we parked the beast. And I am going to blow up the beast. I'm going to set the timer and I'm going to blow it up. I'll be fine. Don't worry about it. I'll catch you on the flippity flip. And as he's running to the beast, a shark flies through and takes off his leg. So now Frankie Muniz is hopping toward the RV. And he finally gets to the RV and he's hoisted himself up on top of the RV. And as he's dangling there, other leg chopped off. And then he's like reaching with both.
It's merely a scratch.
He's crawling with both arms to the big "do not push unless you want to blow yourself up" button, which is on top of the RV. And he's crawling with both arms. Whoops, one arm taken off by another shark. So now he's pulling himself, bleeding profusely from everywhere. One arm pulling himself. He almost gets there. Last arm taken. So he's able to like wriggle his torso. And by the way, while this is happening, Nova is watching from the plane cockpit, as though he's right outside and right below her. But we know for a fact, because of how far they walked to get to the runway from where they parked, he's hundreds of yards, thousands of yards away. She's like, no, I have to save him. And Finn's like, no, you can't do it. There's no time. And so finally,
no mention of Matt, the son.
No,
it's just she's an expert pilot, so I'm surprised.
No, he's not in this movie. He's in 4, but a different actor. But they don't mention why he looks different. Anyway, so Frankie Muniz finally is able to wriggle all the way and touch the button with his nose, and it's the biggest explosion you've ever seen in a movie. Our RV just goes up in flames, it disintegrates, and it's like, no, I have to go back. I have to save him after he's been blown up. No, and Finn looks over his shoulder, looks down as though again it's right outside, and says, "No, it's too late. I can't save him. We have to go, otherwise he died for nothing." And just the way he says it, like you can tell that he knows that in the script there's a huge fireball. Frankie Muniz has been disintegrated. And then she goes, "No, I have to save him." "No, it's too late. We can't save him." Like, it's so deadpan serious. It's like the best moment, I think, in the entire franchise, because it is so like it becomes in this moment like a version of Airplane where it is absolutely spoofing the movies that it is. Like that's what's really cool about it. So
also, like, Frankie Muniz was not going to have much of a life as a stunt. Like as the knight from Monty Python, which I've referenced several times now.
Right. Yeah. So
good for him for headbutting his nose into the button.
They finally get to Orlando, finally get to Universal Studios. There's sharks everywhere. They're able to fight off the sharks. They're able to somehow stop the Sharknado there, but there are more Sharknadoes.
What?
So there are more Sharknadoes coming.
But it was the biggest explosion ever had.
That part of the Sharknado that worked, but there were the Sharknado is big as the entire eastern seaboard, and wherever you take out one Sharknado, another one appears. So they have no choice but to go to Finn's dad, who is an old Air Force colonel, Army colonel, whatever, works for NASA, but never got to be a real astronaut, played by David Hasselhoff. And David Hasselhoff is Colonel Gilbert Grayson Shepard. Call me Colonel. And so he knows the guys at NASA, and the only thing they can do is to create a tower of fire that goes from the ground all the way to space. That's what they say. I would argue they didn't actually do that, and the plan worked, so I'm not really sure. He's got to go to space, and he's got to take him and his son to space to be able to do this. So Tara Reid finds out that her husband, the father of her baby, is going to space to try and fight the Sharknado in space, I guess. And she gets so angry that she follows him out onto the runway that goes between the thing and the shuttle and has a big fight with him. And then the Sharknado hits, and like the gangway starts to collapse. So they have no choice but to run and get on the shuttle and put her, I guess, in a spare spacesuit so they can go up into space. Also, the sharks get into space, and they're out there and they're biting things in space. And the only way to fix the thing that makes the big explosion.
How do they survive in space?
I don't know. That's what they say. How do sharks survive in space? I don't know. How do they survive in a tornado? None of this makes sense. And I was like, I mean, that's honestly
self-awareness. I like it.
So David Hasselhoff has to go outside just to do a spacewalk in his suit to fix the thing to make the big explosion. But then he says from out there, it's like, listen, there was only enough fuel to either come and get me from this thing I'm doing over here or to get home. There was always going to be one way. Listen, I'm living my dream. Going to space, Dad? No. Being your hero. You do this for me. Go down there and you raise my grandkids right. It's so overblown. But they are able to. The whole space shuttle comes apart, and because all the sharks attack it, and there's one big shark. The big shark has eaten Tara Reid. Just swallowed her. So Finn goes and he gets in the shark too. Lets the shark eat him so he can go in there after her. And that giant
he has experience with that, so
yeah, that giant shark goes in that does re-entry and burns up, but they're in the shark. So it's okay because the shark blubber protects them as they fall back to Earth, and they land in the water in some tropical island, and Finn cuts his way out of the shark like he did before in the first one. But this time, he always has a chainsaw. Always got a chainsaw handy.
Yeah.
So why not? This one's actually made out of a laser because it's a space chainsaw. And so he cuts his way out. And then he reaches back in to try and pull out his wife. And as he does that, a tiny little hand comes through the opening.
She gave space shark birth.
And then she hands him the tiny little baby who was apparently fine. And then he pulls her out. And she steps through the shark whole opening that he cut, as wearing underwear. And I don't know, like, if you actually gave birth inside the belly of a shark, would you take the time to step like, oh, I will, I modesty. I'm gonna put on my husband might
also, like, you cut your own umbilical cord,
all that
like
stuff. No, placenta, what's that? So the visual of the tiny hand coming through is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I can't do it justice. I'll have to find you a timestamp. It is fantastic. But everybody's there. Like Claudia lands from wherever the hell she is, because they're all in Fort Cape Canaveral. Like, it's kind of amazing. They went up into space from Cape Canaveral, Florida, and they landed in re-entry at Cape Canaveral, Florida. That's really handy.
Just a real up and down drop.
All the people are there. Everybody's fine, right there, except for Gilbert Grayson Shepard gave his son Finn his set of wings to give to my baby, my grandbaby, when he gets born. And so, like, hey, what happened? I'm supposed to give my son, who I'm now cradling, 5 minutes after he was born, in the belly of a shark. I'm supposed to give him these wings. Where are the wings? And Terry says, I see them. I'll go get them. And she walks out. This woman who's just given birth says, I'll go get them. Walks out in the middle of this island, looks up, and a piece of the space shuttle crushes her. And that's the end of Sharknado 3. They give you a cliffhanger, so you have to watch Sharknado 4.
They signed a 3-movie deal at this point.
Must have.
It's kind of fucked up, but I'm like rooting for her to die because I feel like that trope has to be true.
In the fourth one, the Sharknadoes are able to appear anywhere, which is weird because this is 5 years later, and the technology has been created to not only predict but also immediately put the kibosh on any kind of Sharknado that ever appears.
Okay, well, I'm glad that we put some development into this. It's been a persistent problem.
Like Icarus flying too close to the sun, the guy who came up with this technology has built a brand new giant casino hotel in Las Vegas called Hotel Shark, which is the entire front of the thing is a huge aquarium shark tank filled with thousands and thousands of sharks, because tempting fate and hubris is not a thing that they talked about in any of the classes this guy took. So a sandstorm hits Vegas and picks up all the sharks out of the shark aquarium, and that's how we start Sharknado 4. By the way, we also started with a brand new Matt.
Okay.
Brand new character, Matt. They never actually tell you why he's this new guy. Getting married to his new wife. While skydiving, not Nova. While skydiving, Nova is in the third one. She's involved. She's there.
Right.
She's not in the fourth one.
Okay.
I don't know. So we have this new Matt, new wife. They're part of this whole thing. Finn's there. There's a huge thing where they have to save Vegas. They save Vegas. And then they're trying
Tara
to
Reid
get
survives.
Yeah. Tara
survived
Reid,
the last one.
Tara Reid apparently was in a coma for 4 years, and then Tara Reid's father, played by Gary Busey, convinces Ian Ziering to...
Bo Derek and Gary Busey made Tara Reid as a human being.
Yes.
Amazing.
And also the Colonel, David Hasselhoff, who was stranded in space. Yeah, they just went and got him. They just sent him another thing because he just took his little jetpack, landed on the moon. He's fine. They went up and got him from the moon. He's okay. He's in the fourth. So anyway, Gary Busey convinces Ian Ziering to pull the plug on Tara Reid because she's been in a coma for 4 years. Then he takes her irreparably damaged body, doesn't actually cremate it or whatever, says he does, and he builds her into a cyborg. He literally takes and replaces all the damaged parts with cyborg parts, but doesn't tell her tells her when she wakes up that all of her family is dead, and all of her family believes that she is dead. And Gary Busey says he had to do this because reasons, and I don't remember what the reasons were, but they were pretty flimsy at best.
Okay.
And anyway, so there are huge tornado. This tornado moves up. The Sandnado became the Sharknado. The Sand Sharknado hit an oil field, became an Oilnado.
Oh, I hate it when that happens.
Yeah, the Oilnado. And the Oilnado hit something and became a Firenado. And the Firenado was almost put out, but then it hit a electrical plant and became a lightning nado. And then it went through, and it's just been going through the entire country, going towards Finn's family farm in Kansas.
Oh no, not the lightning nado.
Yeah, yes, where his mom, played by Cheryl Tiegs, the old Sports Illustrated swimsuit model.
Derek and Cheryl Tiegs. Nice.
Sister-in-laws, yeah. Very good. Straight. But she is there babysitting Finn, who is Gil, who is the new baby, who's now 5, who's not 5. I mean, the actor's like 9, but they say he's 5. He's also really annoying and terrible at everything. But also they've introduced now a cousin, Finn's cousin, Gemini, and she's around for the ride. They're trying to get everybody back to the farm to protect the farm from the oil NATO, fire NATO, lightning NATO with sharks in it.
Right.
And they finally do that. But once they do, the wife, Matt's wife, dead. She was killed. And he never seems like all that sad about it. Like, they don't really give him a time to be like, hey, my new bride was killed, was torn apart by sharks falling out of the sky. And I'm weirdly cool with it.
Maybe it's just something after you've been through so many Sharknadoes, you just kind of like accept that it might be a possibility up front. Question circling back to earlier that we didn't touch upon. Claudia's phone / Chris Jericho, where did that go?
I'm sorry. Well, they were trying to find Claudia. Like, where is she? Where did she go? I'm like, oh, I know where she is. I have a tracking app on my phone. Let me go and I'll find her. Like, hey, I'm looking for my daughter, says Tara Reid to everybody she meets. I'm looking for my daughter. She looks like this. Have you seen her? Have you seen her? Like, no, I haven't seen her. And he goes up to Chris Jericho. Like, the tracking app says she's here. I don't see anybody here. I'm trying to get all these people off of this thing before more sharks get here, says Chris Jericho. A Chris Jericho NATO would be a Jericho NATO.
A Jericho NATO. Oh yeah.
Anyway, it's like her phone is supposed to be right here. He says, like, her phone? Is this it? He pulls it out of his pocket. Oh my God, this is it. She's like, she must have left it here. And then he's like, all right, buddy, everybody off of the roller coaster. Eaten by a shark.
Oh, Jericho goes the way of the shark.
Yeah. But he was eaten by a shark. Like, the shark latched onto him, like onto his shoulder, like his shoulder meat. Trapezius.
Did he try to put it in the walls?
No, he should have, but he was like this. Like a lot of that. It was a lot of that. Like,
that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
We love that for Jericho.
We do love that for Jericho. The only wrestler who did any moves to sharks was John Morrison in the 5th one. Did like a spinning heel kick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the spinning heel kick. Did like a kip up and a couple of like punches, and he did like a falling suplex to a shark, and then he kips up and he's like, it's like, all right, who else wants to go to Slam Town? Then he's eaten by sharks.
Johnny NATO.
Yeah. Seth Rollins is in the 4th one. Seth Rollins is there are all of these what they call astropods. And the astropods are the things that help control the weather because they emit some kind of frequency. Also, isotopes. They say, we need stronger isotopes. That'll solve the problem. And I think they honestly knew they were doing junk science. So they're like, let's do the junkiest junk science we possibly can. Anyway, Seth Rollins is in charge of the astropod that is located on top of Mount Rushmore. And he's just there and he's like, hey, if any of these sharks get here, I'll stomp them. Then the sharks actually show up there. Nobody eats Seth Rollins. He just says that. That's it. He's got like 3 lines, and 1 scene, and that's it.
Oh man.
Anyway, so the actual farmhouse gets picked up with Ian Ziering and his cousin Gemini and little Gil in the house, and they just get tossed in the Sharknado to Chicago, where they land on the evil witch who is the mayor of Chicago. She's wearing stripy socks, and the house lands on her, and then her you see her little feet sticking out.
Wicked Witch of the West action going on. Yeah, very nice.
And that's played by Stacey Dash from Clueless, is who that is.
Appropriate.
And anyway, so yeah, there's all that. They finally are able to stop the Sharknado by using a bomb to blow as much water into it as possible, which they need to keep figuring out how we're doing that. Also the lightning NATO hit a nuclear power plant, so it became a nuke NATO.
So the
Or
sand,
Sharknuko.
shark, oil, lightning,
oil, fire, lightning.
oil, fire, lightning. I knew I was missing one,
Mhm.
and this is where we're at now. Okay.
So because all the sharks are now super radioactive, they don't have to eat you. They just have to touch you, and then you turn into like dust.
Oh, no. So falling sharks are a whole other threat.
Yeah. Anyway, so they go to Niagara Falls because it's the only place they know of that has enough water to blow up the nuclear NATO. And they're gonna have to outfit the Colonel, David Hasselhoff, into this mech suit that has a big bomb on it. He's volunteering to blow himself up with this big bomb.
I mean, he's been on borrowed time anyway.
Yeah,
he didn't think he was coming back from space.
But the two women who are there to like prep him to get into the mech suit are Gina Lee Nolan and one other girl from Baywatch, and they have like a little back and forth thing about
Baywatch reunion.
Baywatch reunion, and then they are immediately eaten by radioactive sharks. And he, David Hasselhoff, walking up toward the hill where there's a mech suit on it, eaten whole by a shark. And so now Finn has to get in the mech suit
to go back inside the shark, because that's like his.
He's trying to do that.
If that is not like his free bird.
Yeah.
Let me get inside a shark and get cut out.
Play the hits, man. And they're able to finally stop the Sharknado. He and his wife, who's now a cyborg. They're reunited. They're almost killed in Chicago when they land in the thing. And then David Hasselhoff in his private jet with Tara Reid and also Claudia, who's now a scientist. I should have mentioned that. She's now a scientist, a brilliant scientist. And also Matt. They're all in this private jet. And Dev has, we've got a ping. We now know where Finn is. Smash cut to Tara Reid walking through the rubble of this house that landed in Chicago. So, like, none of the first responders have gotten there, but David Hasselhoff's jet, which was somewhere over Louisiana, got to Chicago before anybody in an ambulance did in Chicago.
I mean, they literally wrote the book on it, so I kind of they're a little more prepared.
But anyway, so Cyborg Tara Reid, using her laser eyes and something else, is able to solve all the problems and help Finn dissipate the Sharknado 4. But out of the blue, from the Sharknado dissipating, there is a rotating flying Eiffel Tower, which lands right by the foot of Niagara Falls, and standing on top of it is Nova.
Oh, good.
End of Sharknado 4. Sharknado 5. There are Sharknadoes all over the world, and they have to use a wormhole that is located inside the Sharknado. This is
what about the defense system?
That doesn't work. That's the whole thing. Is the Sharknado didn't work, and they had to use the bomb to blow up the water thing, and they didn't have enough of those or whatever. So there's Sharknadoes all over the world, and also there were always Sharknadoes, but our ancestors thousands of years ago were able to stop them using a magical amulet.
This feels like some ancient alien stuff.
Yeah.
This circles back to our earlier episode on ancient aliens.
The ancient amulet was buried by the Druids under Stonehenge, which is why they made Stonehenge to mark where they buried the amulet. And Nova and Ian Ziering rappelled down into a cave underneath Stonehenge to get the amulet. But it turns out disturbing the amulet released all the Sharknadoes again.
Oh,
and
no.
I know it's a terrible idea. Also,
I hate it when that happens.
Little Gil, played by a different actor now, who's also now like 13, but still acts like he's 5. It's really weird. He's wearing a super special shark fin helmet that protects him from sharks. Don't ask me how. I don't know. But it's given to him by
everyone should have one of those.
It's given to him by Clay Aiken. from 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 American Idol, who has a British accent because the whole first part of the movie takes place in Great Britain, and he's like their version of Q, who's like giving out like the weird technology to people. Hell, here, chap, why don't you have this hat, chap? Whoa, it looks really good on you, chap. It's a terrible accent. And also, Chris Kattan from SNL is the Prime Minister of England. Like, they didn't have anybody from England play people from England because I guess they didn't want to fly anybody over from England to do this movie that was obviously shot in the United States.
Well, no, that would be something that would be good. So
Yeah.
they can't do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was Clay Aiken amazing, I imagine?
He was awful. And I didn't see him die, though. At one point, though, he was surrounded by sharks, but he was like shooting them all with a gun. So Chris Kattan gets a leg cut off, but he's able to survive. Anyway, this is where we find out that Nova has been running the Sisterhood, which is a whole network of all these ninja women who track and destroy Sharknadoes. Also, Gemini, his cousin, is actually part of the Sisterhood. She was the one who recruited Nova into the Sisterhood. The Sisterhood's been around for thousands of years, but now Nova's in charge of it. This is where
she's been through a lot.
Yeah, this is where I don't know if you could put a pin in it. This is where it's so starts to no longer be fun anymore because it's like I can't keep track of all the bullshit. You've lost the plot on anything funny about any of this, and it's because like you're taking it seriously again, and like I have really interesting ideas about time travel and also the nature of space and time. And like, no, you don't. It's a movie about sharks in a cyclone.
Yeah, no, your last movie had radioactive sharks and a cyborg. Like, let's not get meta about this.
So at one point in the number 5, Tara Reid gets blown up, and only her cyborg head still exists. So Ian Ziering's carrying that around like a football, talking to it, and occasionally using her laser eyes to kill sharks.
That is fun.
Yeah, that it could be. Wasn't really in the execution. It's a good idea, but not great when it's like Tara Reid's like, I can help. Use my eyes. She does this. That's how she uses it.
Oh, that's so lame.
Yeah, very lame.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. So Sharknado 5, they're able to get all this stuff, but remember, the little kid has been sucked into the vortex, and they're trying to get into the Sharknado so they can also be sucked into the vortex. But some of the vortexes just spit you out in another place in the world. So they got spit out from England for Switzerland, excuse me, where a bunch of snowboarders were trying to fight the sharks.
Oh.
They did not do too well. But spit them out from the snowboarding land in Switzerland out into like the bay around Sydney, Australia, like just for some reason. Sydney Opera House, actually not really an opera house. Actually, it's a battle station, and the weird design of it is so that those weird little things on the side of the opera house can be shot up into the air and kill sharks. Because again,
that's innovative.
This is where they kind of lost the plot.
Yeah.
But I will say this. Eventually, all it is Ian Ziering. Everyone else is dead or been sucked into the vortex.
Even Nova?
Dead. Everyone's dead. Everyone's been killed by sharks. The Sharknadoes have gone completely out. They've literally wiped everyone off the face of the planet. There's nobody left except for Ian Ziering. And this is where, honestly, the end of Sharknado 5 was really fun. Because it's him in this weird Jedi hood, like with a walking stick, walking through like the Taj Mahal, like walking the ruins of the Taj Mahal going, is anybody here? And then the next shot is him walking past the Golden Gate Bridge going, is anybody here? And I was like, how long has he been walking that he's been gone from the Taj Mahal to the Golden Gate Bridge. The Golden
And like,
Gate Bridge,
what's he eating?
I don't know. The Golden Gate Bridge to the Arch at St. Louis also crumbled. And then the Houses of Parliament. And like, it's weird, like you go like Taj Mahal to San Francisco. I don't know how we get there. And then the last one is the Kremlin in Moscow. Is anybody here? Anybody? And then this crazy tricked out like big like armored SUV pulls up. And it's like, oh my, this is the first person he's seen in forever. Person gets out of the thing and takes off his hat. And it's Dolph Lundgren. It's the Russian, like the Swedish, but always plays a Russian action star from the 80s and 90s, who's one of my favorite all-time, lot of fun in a bad movie, action movie guys. Love Dolph Lundgren. He is Little Gil, all grown up, who's been traveling through time trying to find his dad. And they have a reuniting scene. It's like, okay, I'm going to take you back in time because I need you to help me end Sharknadoes where they began, in the dinosaur times, basically. So let's do it, Dad, you and me together. And then
maybe also find a woman and reproduce.
Maybe, but nobody's like, if they can stop Sharknadoes where they started, then everything will happen differently, and this future won't exist. Like, that's what they're trying to do. And he said, okay, Dad, you and me, we're going to save the world again or something, right? And then like, oh, but don't we need roads or something? We don't, where we're going, we don't need roads. Some bullshit. And then the Hummer lifts up off the ground and the wheels come up underneath it and it flies away. And the implication they told me was that Ian Ziering and Dolph Lundgren were going to travel back throughout time, trying to find all the people that were killed because they've been sent through a wormhole to different times. So like, we're going to go and get Tara Reid. We're going to go and get Nova. We're going to go and get Matt. We're going to go and get Claudia, everybody. David Hasselhoff. We're going to go get all of them. We're going to create like a ragtag, like a dirty dozen of time-traveling warriors against sharks. The very first thing that happens in Sharknado 6 is they acknowledge that Dolph Lundgren asked for too much money, basically. Because when he lands in dinosaur times, he's alone in the time machine. And there's a hologram that's very blurry with not Dolph Lundgren's voice saying, Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't have the heart to tell you, but I've traveled through time too much, and now I disintegrated. I pre-recorded this hologram thing to let you know that you're here by yourself, but don't worry, you'll do fine, Dad. I'm sure you'll be able to stop Sharknadoes all by yourself. And it turns out he's not all by himself because his son, Dolph Lundgren, brought everybody back through the wormholes to this one point in time. So Judah Friedlander is there, and David Hasselhoff, and all these. David Hasselhoff isn't actually in this movie, but like Judah Friedlander's there, and Nova and Tara Reid, and everybody's there, and they travel throughout time trying to do this whole thing. They go to medieval times and the Old West and all these places, but there's no Dolph Lundgren, and it's, as far as I could tell, really bad, except for it actually does the thing I told you about, where it loops through time back to the beginning of Sharknado 1, and they replay the opening scene of Sharknado 1, but shot differently from different angles with different dialogue, because it's a new future now.
Interesting.
And that's all the Sharknadoes.
So the meat of it is really 2.5 through 4.5.
Yeah, there are some decent moments in 5. 6, I would just say stay away from. But they knew it was over.
Sure.
Like they say the name of the 6th movie is not Sharknado 6. It's called The Last Sharknado. It's about time. They're like, yeah, we're done with these. We're all acknowledge what this is.
We've gotten all the juice out of it that we could.
We're done with these. Thanks. Yeah. So that's it.
I feel like there was no way of knowing this, but we should not have watched Sharknado 1 and really just delved into the
I mean,
the
I
meat
could
of
I
it.
could have kept you. I could have said to you, "What is Sharknado 1?" Like the context of what is a Sharknado, and also it's kind of helpful to know that Ian Ziering, that Finn is just a surfer who happens to own a bar.
Yes.
Like if you need to know that, because if you watch Sharknado 3 or 4, you think he's like a full-time adventurer who must have been in special forces at one point because he's so good with weapons.
Right. And so versatile.
Yeah.
Because Sharknado 1, I'm like, so get the flick out of here. But like from 3 on, especially, it sounds like is in my wheelhouse.
3,
So for the franchise, I say don't get the flick out of here. For 1, I was just like, get the flick out.
yeah, I think you could probably find a good like sped up like montagey type thing on YouTube of like
You need
here's
a
Sharknado.
montage.
Here's Sharknado, but in 6 minutes.
Yes.
Because really, just like that's about it.
Or you just listen to us.
Yeah, or this, but like they're all of them are available to watch, stream for free if you have Amazon Prime Video. So that's good. 3, I would say, is the most fun because it seems to be fully aware of what it is. But I don't know if like when Nova shows up in 3, all Mad Maxed out, I feel like if you don't have the context of who she was in 1, it might not work properly. But yeah, it is a crazy franchise that doesn't make a lot of sense at all. But most of these things are. There's like,
and
like
only in 1 was it supposed to, like they were fully aware. It sounds like
yeah, and they lean more into comedy rather than action or horror, as opposed to like Sharktopus, which is like some mad scientist combined a shark with an octopus, and because of the tentacles, the shark is able to walk on land and breathes air, and so can follow you onto land because it can walk on its tentacles, and eats a lot of people in very graphic ways. The same people who made that also made these movies, and they're very wildly different, even though they both feature sharks.
It's a lot of shark.
They're like, here's what you do. I want you to do this. Also, you at home, but you, Kate, in the Prime Video search bar, just do shark, and it's going to be like Mega Shark, Mecha Shark versus Robo Shark.
God, I forgot about like the Mega.
Yeah,
right. That was a whole
thing. All these friggin'.
I'm just saying, get a new protagonist in this genre.
The thing is, like, sharks. I think the sharks are kind of played out.
It's true. Get a whale.
I feel like the sharks have jumped the shark.
They have, in a very meta way, jumped themselves.
So yeah, I think we both say to the first one, get the flick out of here.
Yes.
But it was super successful for its time. I just think like it didn't really know what it was wanting to be.
Yeah, it didn't figure itself out.
But the rest of the franchise really does have some really solid moments. However, I think they really work best if you have the context of all the bad moments, and that's weird. But yeah, I would say first one, get the flick out of here. The rest of them, not. 6, yeah, get the flick out of here in 6. But 2, 3, and 5, and 5, 2, 3, 4, and 5, pretty good. Pretty all right. I would say pretty all right. Okay, now here's where we get into the new thing. Okay.
Yes.
Go to kynchatts.com to make your formal requests.
Yes. Or if you have any questions about the ones that we've done so far, you can ask those. If you have any comments on past episodes, if you want to know more about the courtship from way back, I'm sure I can tell you what Miss Remy is up to right now. If you want to talk world police, we can do that. There's so many options. But if you have suggestions. We can't.
If you want to know how ancient the aliens are, we
Yeah.
can try and tell you this. We have a few more surprises on the horizon. Maybe some special guests that might be appearing on the show. So yeah, there's a lot of fun. But that is the best way to get us a suggestion or a request for something for us to review or talk about, is to go through KYN. That's for Know Your News. KYNchats.com. That's the best way to get in touch with us, and that's where we will be harvesting our requests from. We're going to become more of a request-heavy platform here in the future. We're still going to take some time to make sure we have things going along. Like we already like the Halloween episode locked in. Spooky Buddies is locked in. We're doing Spooky Buddies for Halloween. I don't know about the other things, but
holiday season around Christmas too.
Yeah,
if you don't think I've curated some ridiculous movies for us.
Yeah, no, there's going to be a lot of holiday stuff starting. I think like Thanksgiving week on through the New Year is just going to be terrible Hallmark / romantic movies about Christmas.
Phenomenal.
It'll be hell for me, but a lot of fun for you, I think, Kate. Kate, where can they find you?
Well, you can find me on Fightful every Tuesday and Friday, at the Mark Order podcast every Wednesday, if you guys are wrestling nerds like myself. But you can also find me on social media at Miss Kate Fabe on Twitter and TikTok, and on Katestagrams on the Instagram.
Yeah, you can find me on the Twitter at Alex Sour Graps, talking all kinds of things grapfully.
Grapulous.
On Fightful.com and all of its subsidiaries, and of course here happening every Thursday is when these are posted. So yeah, have fun. Again, KYNchats.com to get in any questions about things we've done in the past and any suggestions you have for the future. Until then, we're going to be figuring out now, going forward, what we're going to be talking about when we figure out what we're going to do and we say, get the flick out of here. Bye, everybody. Look out for sharks.
RESPECT. Click the subscribe button and find out what it means to me. Nah, that doesn't have a ring to it. But if you like videos about real news stories that are funny, stupid, or weird, subscribe now.